Hey guys, Casey Williams here with elitefts.com. Ms. Danny Overcash, the famous PT. So kind of here today I want to give everybody the struggles I've gone through in the last year and a half, some of the breakthroughs I've had, some obstacles I've overcome, and really how that could benefit everybody else in the powerlifting community and maybe even outside of that. Coming off of Rum 8 in February of 2015, had a really great meet, took first in the 242s. I had actually pulled my left adductor going into that meet. Turned out it was okay, everything was all right. And picked another meet, I think 4 months after that, getting ready for it, and pulled my left hamstring really bad. Took a couple weeks off, started to try to ramp up again for that meet, and decided I had to back out. Picked another meet, another 3 or 4 months after that, pulled my left glute, and I'm thinking, all right, so it's all on my left side, so there's got to be something going on. I qualified for the Arnold, and I was like, well, I'm going to push through and go to the Arnold, and I had to talk with Dave, and Dave was like, it's not a real good idea, and I said, well, what would you do? And he said, what would I do? He said, I compete, I tear whatever the hell I want and keep going. And no, I said, but legitimately, what should I do? He's like, take 6 weeks off. I'm like, all right, so I'll bench, I'll pull a sled around. He's like, no, 6 weeks off. I'm like, what's that mean? He's like, elliptical. And I said, that's some bullshit. And I don't normally blindly trust anybody. Steve Goggins will tell you that. He gets mad at me. But I do. I trust Dave. He's been there and done that. And so I took 6 weeks off. Toward the end of that 6 weeks, Dave and I had a conversation. I started pulling all of my meet prep videos the couple weeks before I hurt myself and leading up to the training days that I did hurt myself. I started to see some pattern in how I was squatting, and Dave was like, you got to send this to Danny, and we kind of found a way to work together to go through some of those issues. And it was pretty plain to see, at least from Danny's perspective, I had an anterior pelvic tilt. So now I've always had that. Immediately my hamstrings are stretched, and I'll let you kind of talk to it a little bit more, but my left hip was not quite in the socket, which meant I was squatting with a stretched hamstring into my right side. So everything on my left leg was getting stretched out. And it was like every time I hit 90% plus, I was really at risk for injuring myself, and it happened 3 times within 6 months. So it was time to really figure out what the hell was going on. So
Casey's done an awesome job. I think we don't appreciate exactly what goes into to actually letting this heal and taking the time off. Casey fits a pattern that I see a lot, and he essentially was a very, really strong, an exaggerated version of the hip shift that we try to correct. I think I saw Casey squat actually at Rum. I remember meeting him at the meet and just being like, man, he is so freaking strong, but he is all in his right hip. And so as much as I was not really surprised, I think the degree to which everything modified with him in the course of the next 4 to 8 months, even after that, getting ready for Boardwalk Bash and then the Arnold, was pretty telltale. And I think that we as lifters need to really respect the patterns that our bodies are in and figure out how to work around that. So Casey was in a pattern where, like he said, he was kind of squatting into his right hip. We knew that. We as lifters, we get into an anterior tilt, no big deal most of the time. Usually what I see is that in someone that's so strong into that kind of tilt, you give a little bit the other direction, you get a lot of bang for your buck. It's kind of the give me an inch, I'll give you a mile mentality, and our body works with us in that. Casey's particular presentation was a little bit more, he's tilted forward both ways, but he was in more of a 3-dimensional asymmetry. So in his left hip being tilted forward, flared, and shifted a little bit, what that did is exactly what he said in terms of, if you think about where our muscles attach, every time we move, if we're out of position, we're asking a muscle to work at a different length because its attachment point has been modified. So we knew that for the left hamstring and left adductor, when you ask a long muscle that's too long to carry a lot of weight, what were you squatting at that point?
It was anything over 90%, so it was maybe I remember 745
That's a lot of weight.
I hit a single. I was going to hit a double. I hit a single on the second rep. It felt like I got shot in my adductor. I dropped the weight, and my training partners almost were very upset with me.
I'm kidding.
So yeah, I mean, what that all means for you guys. Again, as she said, it's kind of common. What it meant for me, once I figured out how to correct some of that tilt, it's never going to be perfect, but for me, I figured out how to correct it enough that my movements are more efficient. Through all of this, I actually learned that I wasn't breathing properly. We'll go through some of the, so what we'll do is go through the rehab stuff that Danny showed me. We'll both kind of explain our thoughts on breathing. I stole some stuff from Danny. I stole some stuff from Chris Duffin. Kind of came up with my own way to think about it. But I got back to the platform 3 weeks ago, August 20th, and I competed in single ply just because that was where I was comfortable squatting. Some of the support helped me. But I totaled 2,300. I hit an 850 squat, a 650 bench, and an 800-pound deadlift, which my previous deadlift best was 750. So I literally added 50 pounds to my deadlift, just learning how to breathe and getting my hips working properly. So I mean, it's not always a strength thing. I mean, it's always good to be strong, but sometimes that does mask a lot of the issues that you have as a lifter. And that was me for a long time until the body had enough. So yeah, like I said, we'll show you some of the things we worked on, and hopefully there's some good takeaway for you guys.
I think it's important too to acknowledge that we worked on the positioning, we worked on all that, but Casey going single ply too, let the tissue heal a little bit. And so when Dave gave him that 6-week timeline, there's a physiology you can't always outsmart. So paying attention to that, being mindful of that, that's great. We can work on pelvis position all day long. We can work on muscle activation all day long, but you still got to let tissue heal and give it that time.
I had plenty of people tell me you're doing the wrong thing. You can't take 6 weeks off. Now, mind you, I wasn't going to say, well, Dave Tate told me to do it, but I mean, yeah, it's science. It takes 6 weeks for tissue to heal. So Dave was like, you can be a dumbass or we can fix this. So that's why we did what we did. But
so the general approach we took was work on pelvis position, work on muscle activation, and let the tissue heal. We'll show you some of the things we did to get the pelvis position a little bit better.